Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Walsh. I am a real estate investor. I was in New York, and now we are down in Virginia, and we are going to talk about cash offers. People see them everywhere. You see the signs in the street. You get things in the mail. I get them here for the properties I own. People trying to buy them from me. And most people really don't understand what they are, all right, how they really work, and why you or anybody would actually consider such a thing. Why would you or why wouldn't you? You don't know. Most people have preconceived notions as to what they are and what they're about. And I want to set the record straight. I usually do this in a live seminar, but I'm just kind of recording this now. I'm going to put it on YouTube so that it has a bit of more of an evergreen factor, and I can just reach more people. I just want to help people and give out information that makes it easy for some people to make smarter decisions. All right, so who hasn't seen these signs everywhere? You see them everywhere. We buy homes. We buy houses. Buy houses, fast. Become a real estate investor. All right, train to be a real estate investor. Many people think these things are scams, right? Are these things scams? Are they trying to steal your identity? No, they are for real. Okay, I can assure you this is not a scam. When you watch TV, you watch HGTV, and watch all these flippers, and they make it look easy. Where do you think they're finding these deals to flip? Where are they finding these houses? They're not coming to the television station. It's from cold calling. It's from direct mail, paid advertising, and from posting signs like that everywhere. They're called bandit signs. Right? It doesn't mean that every person posting on the putting their bandit sign up there is a house buyer or an investor. They might be finding deals to funnel off to an investor, but they're for real. If you call those numbers and say, hey, I'm looking to sell my house, you will get an offer, and the 99% majority will follow through. All right, so this seminar, what are we going to talk about in this little seminar? I'm going to set you straight on what a cash offer really is. All right, we're going to describe how an investor or the cash offerer gets to their offer price. All right, we're going to discuss some of the other ways an investor can buy your home. It's more than just a cash offer. There's ways to do things to take ownership of a property, not just with cash or a mortgage. Then we'll discuss what happens after you accept an offer, and then we'll kind of briefly touch on what kinds of home sellers are best served by cash buyers, or as the new thing is, we're calling them iBuyers, right? Instant buyers. All right, so what does a cash offer mean? Believe it or not, a cash offer is rarely actually a cash offer. It is very unlikely that someone is going to write you a check for $80,000, $100,000, or $500,000 for your home. All right, it doesn't happen. Who pays cash for houses? Usually empty nesters. They raise their family in the 5-bedroom house, and now they sell the house, they take the equity, and they buy a condo somewhere, and they buy the condo cash, right? So your true cash buyers are just people that are kind of downsizing, or they got a little windfall of money and they're buying their house, them upgrading or whatever the case may be. But your investors, they're not really buying cash. All right. First of all, not that many people actually have that kind of money laying around. All right, that they can part with. I don't know too many people that do. All right. Second, it doesn't make any sense from an investment standpoint to put all of your money into a deal. Let's say I have $500,000 that I want to invest. Would I put $500,000 into a house, or would I put $500,000 into 3 or 4 or maybe 5 houses? Well, that's what we would do. So your cash buyers are not coming in with their own cash. They're coming in with what's called OPM, and that's other people's money. All right, it's a loan, but it's not a mortgage. All right, almost all investors will use private money known as hard money. All right, what is hard money? This is a group of very wealthy individuals or groups of investors, all right, who lend money to other investors in order to purchase investment properties. There are just some people, right? The old saying that, doctors will invest in anything. When, you have certain careers, your doctors, your lawyers, your I don't even know what else really. Doctors and lawyers are the key ones, right? They work a lot, but they make a lot of money in general, and they want to invest, but they work so much at their craft that they can't go manage flips and manage all these things. So what do? They lend their money out. They get together, usually in groups, and lend out money to investors. There's a lot of them out there. There's also hedge funds. There's numerous, ways that people can get money. Sometimes, if I'm an investor, I'll pool money from my family. But the big ones are coming in and they're going to hard money lenders. And they're going to come in and they're going to look at the deal and they will lend the money. Right? But it's not a mortgage. Right? Why is this important to understand? Right? Even though there is no traditional mortgage, someone else is still calling the shots. I want to buy your house. I'm going to pay you $100,000 for your house. What I really mean is that someone's going to lend me $80,000 or $90,000 to buy your house. And that means they're calling the shots. Therefore, you're going to need to grant access to some people during this contract period, appraisers, contractors, inspectors maybe. I mean, because they want to know, the people that actually are lending the cash want to know that the house is worthy of the money, that the deal is worthy, that the investor that they're lending to is worthy. They want to get their money back. They don't even want to just get their money back. They want to make money on it. But at a very minimum, they want to get their money back, just like a bank. A bank isn't going to lend you money to buy a house if the house isn't worth it, or if you're not a good risk. So it's the same thing, just fewer strings. A mortgage may take 45 or 50 or 60 days, to be approved. A hard money guy can literally lend money in a day. I've seen many deals come through, where there's a last minute deal and they need to get money, and they'll call their hard money lender and you do some faxing and some calling. 12 hours later, there's a check for $300,000. That's the difference. All right. So once we get to the deal, how does an investor determine the offer price, the price that they're going to offer you for this home? Right? It's not complicated. It's actually, pretty simple, but simple does not mean easy. All right. So it's not complicated, but neither is it easy. All right. Private hard money lenders, as a rule, have pretty standard requirements, just like mortgage banks. So some banks may give you better deals, may, give you some points off, may give you a better interest rate, but they're still looking at the same thing. They want an 80% loan to value. They want you to have a credit score of at least 700. They want you to have a job for at least a number of months. All the same things. So private hard money lenders are the same way, right? I can call 10 different lenders, get 10 different rates, get 10 different deals. Some are interest only, some are interest up front, some are amortized for 30 years, 20 years, but payable in 1 year, payable, it doesn't matter. But they still have standards as for the deal, the value of the house, the value of the loan, the value of the repairs, right? So in many ways, it's very simple, right? So we as investors have to structure a deal that falls within these generally accepted parameters, right? The hard part is making, is estimating repairs and estimating values to fall within those generally accepted parameters. All right. The scary part is estimating resale value. The market can change overnight and leave you bankrupt. And I'm not just talking a national market. And right now, I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to do politics here, but this country is going in some oddball directions. I don't know what's going to happen with the dollar or housing prices in the next few weeks, let alone the next few months. All right. But locally, let's take, for example, just something I'm remotely familiar with because I have family up in New Jersey. The Nabisco factory that had been making Nabisco cookies in the area for like 80 or 90 years closed up, and like 1,000 people lost their jobs, or at least were moved to other markets. All right. In some places, something like that happens can change the entire fabric of the neighborhood. And now a home that was going for $300,000, last year, you might be lucky to get rid of it for $200,000 this year, right? So the market can change. The market can change overnight and leave you bankrupt. So that's the risk part for being an investor, right? So when we get down to value, how do most people think value is determined? And this is, as an investor, one of the biggest hurdles we have to get through. and it's understandable. Go online, type in Zillow or Realtor or Redfin or any one of the 90 websites that are out there, and instantaneously you have all the information of the world about virtually any property that you can think of. You want to look up your neighbor's house? You want to look up your house? It's right there, right? So what they all do is they take all of this data, and more data is entered into the system every second, all right? Data, and they determine what your house probably should kind of sort of sell for, in the next couple of days. Zillow has their estimate, Redfin has their estimates, Realtors have those, and if just go to some houses and take a look and check the estimate on 4 or 5 different sites, it could be a $50,000 difference between Zillow and Redfin and Realtor and Trulia. It could be truly huge differences. It's just a matter of how the company brings that data together, right? So people go on and they go on to Zillow and they say, oh, this estimate for my house is $350,000. Well, that could be way off. Zillow is just taking your zip code and the square footage of your house, and they're not taking into account anything that you've done to it or you haven't done to it, right? Or your neighbor's houses. It's an estimate, right? And then the other thing that people do is they assume since their neighbor's house, is listed for $300,000, like they don't say, well, my neighbor's house across the street, it's sold for $300,000. Well, no, it was listed for $300,000, and it may still be listed, and it may have sold, but you don't know what it's sold for. Okay, listing prices and sales prices are often very different, sometimes by great amounts. All right. In the current market, a lot of times it's higher, but it's also very, very often, a house will be listed for $300,000 and 80, 90 days later, it's sold for $285,000. It's a bit of a difference. All right. Listing price and sales price are often different. And if you know how to use the websites, Zillow, Realtor, or pretty much all of them, you can look up the sold prices and compare the sold prices as opposed to active listings. But what happens is it's very common to underestimate how nice your neighbor's house is. They sold their house. It wasn't that great. Well, you don't know that for the last year they've been really working on the inside, and it is nice. And it's common to overestimate how nice your own home is. I live here. This is nice. I like the green paint behind the wall. No one else does. No one, other people aren't going to be happy with the fact that you haven't done the floors in 10 years. All right. So it's common to overestimate how nice your own place is, and you think it's nicer than it is, but you really have to put yourself in the eye of a buyer coming in and looking at your home. All right. How value is really determined. All right. In a free market, we got to remember your home, and this is anything, right? Your home is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay. You got to get that in mind. I don't care what an appraiser says. I don't care what your tax assessor says. I don't care what your, great uncle Billy says. I don't care what anybody says. Your home, your car, your anything is only worth what someone else is willing to pay for it, right? So our job as real estate investors, all right, is to estimate that number by looking at recent past sales. So we will go on to paid sites that we have, but actually a lot of times we use Zillow and Redfin. Redfin's pretty good for us, all right, the way the system interfaces, and we look at past sales about 6 months in the past, houses that sold and transferred ownership 6 months and sooner, right? And we look at those past sales, and then we try to compare the physical condition and state of those sold homes to your home. Okay? So what's the retail buyer looking for, and how much are they willing to pay for your neighbor's houses, all right? And then we try to compare it to your house and say, all right, your house has these features, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, full basement. It's a 60 by 90 lot. It's this and that. And this house over here is very similar, and it's sold for $250,000. That's called the ARV, or the after repair value. So we estimate that number. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you're wrong by a lot. Sometimes you're wrong by a little. Sometimes you hit the mark. But in some neighborhoods, there's not a whole lot of sales, and you got to really guess. In other places, there's just tons of sales, and you can say, all right, I'm pretty sure within $5,000 I can pick the value of this house. Right. So after repair value is the value of what your house is not what it's worth, not what somebody would pay for it now, but what somebody would pay for it if it looked like and was updated like your neighbor's house. You got to remember that. So just because your neighbor's house sold for, you know, $285,000, you got to look at that house. So now we look and see what that house looks like and then compare it to yours. All right. So let's do, you got to compare apples to apples. Your house, you know, does your house have a Formica kitchen and they have a granite kitchen, right? Are your appliances from 19 something and their appliances are from 20 something? All right. Is their electric system 100 amps and it hasn't been updated since 1960 and it's maxed out? So if, you know, you can't run the microwave and the hairdryer at the same time, and your neighbor's house has a 200 amp, 4-foot long panel, that was done from 2015 and has 13 or 14 open spots that you can do anything with. All right, do you have, you know, one full bath and one half bath with like those, you know, that orange tile, and your neighbor's house has, you know, 2 full baths, one of them with a jetted tub, you know, and nice, you know, white subway tiles, right? On the outside, do you have like those white asbestos shingle tiles that 99% of houses had? And your neighbor's house has recent undamaged vinyl siding. These are all things that a retail buyer is going to look at. And they're going to say, okay, you know, 2 blocks down the road is this house that has all these things, and then here's your house. Well, I'm not paying $285,000 for your house when I can pay $285,000 and get this house that's already done, right? So that's where you have to compare apples to apples. Right? What are other related costs that we look at as investors, right? Every day that you own your property, remember this, it costs you money. Whether you live in it or it's a rental or you just, you know, it's an inheritance and it's sitting somewhere. You must pay insurance. You must pay taxes. All right. You've got utilities. Even if you know nobody's living there, there's some utilities running. And for the most case, you have a mortgage. So let's just say you have a mortgage of $1,500, right? That usually covers your insurance as well, right? So now you have, you know, your insurance and taxes, and then you got utilities of say another $200. You could easily have $1,700, $1,800, $1,900, $2,000 a month that you're paying every month that you have this property. Well, it's the same for us. All right. The only difference is that some of those things are more expensive for us. Our hard money, you know, payments are usually more than your mortgage, and our insurance is usually double. All right, our insurance is usually double because we're having work done on the house. All right. Then there's also closing costs. What are closing costs? These are costs that nobody can avoid. A transfer tax, your mortgage tax, your recording tax, your title insurance, attorneys, agents, notaries. These things add up, and in total, they can eat away 20 to 25% of the sales price of a property. And that's not for me. That's for everybody. All right. So these are things that people don't really think of. Oh, like, you know, I owe $150,000 on my mortgage and I'm going to sell it for $200,000. I'm making 50 grand. No, you're not. You're walking out with like 20. All right. So closing costs eat away a ton of the profit. We have to account for that as well. All right. So your final cash offer from an investor, we start with that ARV, and you know, in some cases, we'll spend an hour or two trying to figure out that ARV, comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, right? We subtract our estimated repairs. We subtract our estimated holding costs. And again, these are estimates. We say it's going to take us 3 months to fix this house, and we have to build in, you know, those holding costs. And sometimes things happen, and 3 months turns into 6 months, right? And we have to estimate our closing costs. Closing costs in some places can be kind of figured out a little better. Here in Virginia Beach, they're pretty set, you know, per item. Some places I've seen, they're just ridiculous, and you know, you don't even know what you're up against because the tax calculations are just so off the wall. You need like a scientific calculator to figure out how much you owe. All right, but again, these are all estimates. I'll give you an example as to, you know, how estimates can be wrong. I have a house in Pittsburgh. My buddy and I, we bought it as a flip. Decent house. Old, was built in like 1905, and it hadn't been touched since like 1930, right? So it was a major rehab. So we went in, we did the electrical. Upstairs, it didn't have electric lights, it had gas lights. So there were like literally gas pipes coming into the wall that would light candles, like flames. That was your light in the house. So we took all that apart, and we calculated our repairs pretty good. And then they were redoing the bathroom, and contractor calls and he says, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the stack collapsed. Right? So if you don't know, the stack is the big central pipe that everything kind of feeds into. And these old houses, that stack is, I think, wrought iron, and it weighs like 100 pounds for every 3 foot. It's huge. But as they get old, they break down and it collapsed. All right, so now I got to replumb like 2/3 of the house. $10,000, boom, gone instantaneously. We had a few little hiccups to the point that we couldn't flip the house, and we would have lost money. So we ended up turning it into a rental. Luckily, we were able to rent it, and we've had great tenants, and it's actually turned into a great property since then. But these are things that we just estimate and estimate and estimate, and then keep our fingers crossed that things don't happen. And they do, right? So we estimate repairs, estimate holding costs, estimate closing costs, and that's your cash offer, right? Some people estimate holding costs and repairs differently. Some people are contractors and they know that they own the whole system and they can control those costs. Other people, are just going to try to cut corners. Other people, or whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, those are the differences in cash price offers from different investors. All right, and I hear this all the time, but I, received a higher offer from, right? My answer to you is, if you received a higher offer for your house from someone else, you should take it. All right. Like I said, it could be any number of things. It could be, an inexperienced flipper who's going to lose money on the deal. All right. It could be someone who's not going to get their cash offer approved by the hard money lender because they're offering you too much money. All right. It could be a developer with big plans, and that price point makes sense for them. You don't know that they're just buying your house to say, all right, we're going to put it aside because in the next year or two, we're going to try to buy the 3 houses, and then we're going to put an apartment building. You don't know that. It could be someone looking to move into your property as opposed to sell it. So if you have someone that's going to move in and be a live-in buyer, they're always going to be able to pay more, right? Because they can do the work as they live there, right? It can take them, 2 years to finish the house because they're living there. I can't take 2 years to do the house because I have to live somewhere else and I have to pay for everything while it's being done as an investor, right? So there's opportunities. If someone's offering you a higher offer, take it, buddy, take it. All right. There's no offense given and no offense taken. All right. I try to give you, myself, the same as all of us. We try to give you the most money possible. Why? Because we want the deal. All right. So we're going to give you the most that we can possibly give you to keep our hard money lenders happy and, to make a deal so that we can make a living. If someone's giving you a higher offer, take it. All right. What else can we do besides a cash offer? Because a cash offer doesn't really work for everyone, right? It sounds great, except if you have little to no equity in your home, right? No one's going to pay you more than what your home is worth. Your home is worth $200,000, and for whatever reason, you have a loan for $205,000. I can give you a cash offer for, I don't even know, I got to do the math, but it's not going to be $205,000 if the house is only worth $200,000. People find themselves in these positions all the time. It was definitely more so a number of years back with all of the mortgage issues. But if you look online, and I have my things, and we look every day, and there are tons of people that have negative equity. All right, their loan interest expanded faster than the value of the home, right? So maybe you're a landlord and you want to be done with landlording, but you still want that monthly income, right? You don't want to deal with it anymore, all right? You didn't get a property manager for whatever reason. I use property managers. Maybe you're managing your own properties and you don't landlording, but you like getting the monthly income. We can figure out something for that too, all right? So if you fall into these categories, don't fret. There's almost always another option to stop digging, as they say, and get out of the hole you're in. You need to get out from under your house. You need to get out from under your landlording stuff, and a cash offer isn't going to work for you. There's another way we can find it. All right, one of those, the most common thing is called seller financing. Everyone's heard of it. No one understands it. And I can tell you it's really so unbelievably simple that it's not funny. All right. It is the second most common way to purchase real estate. All right. Instead of a buyer coming out of pocket with cash or going to a bank and getting a loan, the seller, the person selling the home, will extend a mortgage to the buyer. All right. What happens is they become the bank themselves. What's great about it is they don't have to come out of pocket with any money. If a bank is lending me money to buy a house, somewhere even if it's only, zeros and ones on a computer, they're taking the money and they're giving it to me so that we can give it to the seller. In this case, the seller is simply saying, I'm going to write you a note and you're going to pay me money every month. You become the bank yourself. The sale gets recorded with the county clerk. This is nothing under the table. It goes to a title agency handled by an attorney or a title manager. It gets recorded with the deed. All right. So this is legitimate. So on the deed, when some of the title search, instead of seeing, Apple Bank or Chase Bank as the mortgage holder, it'll be John Smith or Mary Smith. They're the mortgage holder. So you as a seller will actually sell your home. You're not responsible for taxes, insurance. You're not responsible for anything, right? So the new buyer, your investor, like me, will buy the house. I am now responsible legally for all the things around the house, and I owe you, the seller, a mortgage, the same as if I would owe a bank or a mortgage broker. It's really simple. And what happens if I stop paying the mortgage? Well, you call up an attorney and you foreclose on me the same as a bank would. It's really simple. It very rarely gets to that point because investors are not your typical, buyer. We're in a different game and we're not going to let ourselves get foreclosed on. All right. But it happens. But the legal protections are there is what I'm getting at. You become the bank. So what happens when you become the bank? All right. The seller can spread out proceeds over different tax years. All right, my landlords, you should understand this, right? When you have a property, every year the government forces you to depreciate the value of the property. All right, if it's a residential property, you depreciate it over 27 and a half years. If it's a commercial property, I think it's 33 years. You depreciate the value. Basically, what that means is when you go and sell that property, the government is now going to say, all those taxes that you didn't pay for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, we want them back now. So you suddenly have tax recapture. So when you have seller financing, what happens is I will now pay you, monthly. I'll give you $1,000 monthly, just get the math, and $500 and we can negotiate this, right? $500 will be interest and $500 will be principal. So now I am earning $500 a month of interest income because I've become the bank as the seller, and then I'm only getting $500 a month that's principal, and that becomes taxable as recapture tax from the years I didn't pay. I'm not giving tax advice here. You have to, talk to your tax, person, but I'm telling you how it works, basically. This is what, so some people, let's say I retired this year from, a job, and I got I got my severance package. So for 2021, my income was $400,000 because I got a $300,000 severance package. And now I go to sell my house, my rental property, and now I'm in a huge tax bracket. Well, if I do seller financing, I can break some of that up for 2 or 3 years. And now maybe when we cash out the house, I'll get the seller will get all of those proceeds in a year when they're living on their pension income and it's only $80,000 worth of pension income. There's ways so it can benefit both people, buyer and the seller, right? So the seller can earn interest income in addition to the sale proceeds, like I said, right? So I'm buying the house from you for $200,000 and over 5 years, I'm paying you $210,000. So I've made $10,000 more simply by collecting interest. All right, and the savings can often be converted into higher sales prices. Ergo, I'm an investor and I'm gonna offer you $180,000 for your house, cash. If you take seller financing, as we see over here, I'm not gonna pay loan origination points and fees to a bank, right? I'm not gonna pay all these ridiculous fees to the bank. Well, then I can hold off a little bit and I can maybe give you a little more money. Instead of $185,000, I can pay you, $190,000, and I'll give you interest in the form of the mortgage payments. So now you as a seller, you're making out better, and me as a buyer, I'm not coming out with maybe a 20% down payment. The bank is going to require a 20% down payment. I can negotiate a smaller down payment with you and higher payments monthly or a bigger balloon payment at the end. All right. There's all sorts of ways that this can work good for both the buyer and the seller. So seller financing, it's simple. It really is. It gets drawn up by an attorney or a title person, and it gets recorded as a mortgage just like anybody else, right? So don't be scared of seller financing. It's not dangerous. It's not, unusual. It's a regular thing, and it really works for just about anybody, if you want it. All right, the next thing, all right, is what we call subject to, right? So it's not very common, all right, but it's pretty big in the investor world. It's where we buy your house subject to your existing mortgage, right? Your house and your mortgage are two separate things and can be bought and sold separately from each other. What's a good example of this? Have you bought a house before and you got your mortgage statement, and a year later you get this thing saying, "Oh, welcome, from ABC Mortgage Company. We just purchased your mortgage. You're going to start sending your checks to us." Somebody else bought your mortgage. They didn't buy your house. You still have your house. So the house and the mortgage can be sold together, right? This type of arrangement is best suited for those homeowners who are suffering financial difficulties and also have no equity in their homes, all right? They may have a little bit of equity, but closing costs can eat up all that equity. Like we talked about before, upwards of 20% of a house sale can be eaten up through closing costs and other related things, all right? So it makes a traditional sale virtually impossible. This happens a lot. You take an FHA mortgage that you can only have to put 3.5% down. You get into the house, and then someone gets sick. Someone loses a job. Tragedy happens, and you fall behind. And because you put so little down to buy your house, there's not enough equity in it now to get out of it. All right. So what happens? We can buy it subject to your existing mortgage. All right. How does subject to is work? All right. When a buyer takes over your home subject to your existing mortgage, they will take title to your property. Again, this gets done through a title agency. It gets recorded in the town. So if you sell your house to me, subject to your existing mortgage, you're no longer responsible for the property taxes. You're no longer responsible for any of the stuff with the house. Me, the buyer, is, all right? But you, the seller, will stay on the mortgage, right, for a period of time. Usually it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It can be a little while until the new owners pay the mortgage. So what happens is I'll come in and say, all right, you have no equity in the house. I can take the payments over, basically. I can take the payments over on your house. We'll change the names so that you're not responsible. If I get summonses from the town for not mowing the lawn, you're not going to get them. I will, right? I'm going to take over but your name is going to stay on the mortgage for a little while, all right? Is it the best scenario? No, it's not. It's not, admittedly. I certainly wouldn't want my name on a mortgage for a house I don't own, but it may be the best situation, right? In a situation like this, homeowners are often forced to seek a short sale from your mortgage holder, or worse yet, suffer foreclosure, all right? So this is who's selling their home subject to their existing mortgage, right? A short sale can destroy your credit, right? It's not as bad as a foreclosure, but it will destroy your credit. And worse, most people don't understand this, and sometimes, like recently, the federal government enacted a moratorium on this, but it's come back and forth a number of times. Let's say that you owe your bank $200,000 and the house is only worth $150,000, just to make the math simple, right? So you get approved by the bank to make a short sale, and the bank has to approve this. Remember this, you can't just do this. The bank has to approve it. So the bank approves a short sale for $150,000, right? So the bank is taking a $50,000 loss on this because you owe them $200,000, but they're only going to get paid $150,000. So they release the loan, they release the bank, and then at the end of the year, they send you a 1099 because the government looks at it as though you earned $50,000, and now you owe income tax on the $50,000 that you didn't pay the bank, right? And people get hit with this out of left field, right? So they sell their house. I'm done. I did a short sale. This house is, off my shoulders, and then, February rolls around and they get a 1099 in the mail and it says, oh, you have unearned, untaxed income of 50 grand. Happens all the time, okay? So a short sale is a double whammy. It can destroy your credit and then you can get hit with a tax lien. It's horrible, all right? So what does subject to do? It can save you the credit damage. If you're falling behind and you're really in that bind and you're going under, I'll come in and I start making the payments. The mortgage isn't in my name, it's in your name. So now the payments are being made in your name on time. So now you get out from under the house, you're not responsible for it anymore, and payments are being made on time in your name, okay? So it can save you credit damage of a foreclosure or short sale, and it eliminates the tax burden because you didn't short sell it from the bank. The bank is still getting their money. I'm paying it instead of you, all right? That's where this is. Is it the best scenario? For most people, no. But if you're at that point, then it is the best scenario. All right, so let's go over this. It makes the best of a not so good situation. And anybody can fall in these situations. Several years ago, we were done. I was looking at bankruptcy attorneys. Everything was just falling apart. We were nowhere near financial solvency. Every credit card was maxed out. And, we stopped digging and cut back the cable and cut back the food. And I sold a car, we did it. And by the grace of God, we were able to dig out, everyone gets there. But sometimes you got to take drastic actions, right? So option A, you're in this bad position, right? So your option is short sale. Okay, what happens? You move. The bank isn't going to let you stay there. You move or you sell the property if it's like a rental property, right? It destroys your credit and can leave you with a tax bill. Or you sell it subject to. Guess what happens? You still move, right? I know you don't want to move. This isn't what you want to do. No one wants to, but option A or option B, all right? The subject to is not the bad guy, all right? You move, you sell the property, but you can help your credit and it doesn't expose you to the short sale taxes. Another option, right? You're going under. You're out of work, you're underworked, someone's sick, the credit cards are maxed, you don't want to move, but in a little while, the bank is going to take your house and you're going to move. And you're either going to leave or the sheriff's going to kick you out, all right? And foreclosures destroy your credit, all right? It's hard to come back from a foreclosure for like 6 or 7 years, all right? Try to get a car, try to get a mortgage, try to get anything. If you do, the interest rate's going to be like double of what you would normally get, all right? Or option B, say, Matt, take over my payments. And in most cases, even though you don't have much equity, we can, you can get a little bit of money out of the hand, there's enough meat in the bone if we're not losing at the closing costs that we can help you move, right? And get you somewhere that's better. And we build your credit because we're paying the mortgage, right? Nothing is taken from you. The sheriff's not taking anything away from you. We can help you move. And you can agree to sell on the best terms possible. You're not, the sheriff isn't showing up and saying, you got 3 days to get out. No, we negotiate. All right. So you need a month or two to find a place. Okay. Maybe I can help you get a moving truck. I can help you get some people to move your stuff. I feel bad that you're going through this, but once this burden is off of you, you can recover, right? Like they say, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. All right. And if you gotten to the point where your house is going to be taken by the sheriff, well, then sell it on your terms. And then don't destroy your credit. So that's like the third option. So we have cash sales, we have seller financing, which works for just anybody. Seller financing is awesome if you can do it because you make extra money just through interest income. And then you got your subject to, which really is good. It's a good deal. There's really nothing wrong with it. The bad part is that you're still attached to a mortgage for 2, 3, 4, 5 years or longer for a house that you don't own. All right. But you're saving your credit, you're saving, potential tax liabilities, and you're getting out from under the debt snowball that you've fallen into. It's an option. It's a legitimate option, and it could be the best option to help you get along. All right. So now you've agreed to a deal. Now what? right? After you accept an offer from a cash buyer, an iBuyer, or an investor, whatever it is, you will receive a contract to review and sign. All right. Most contracts are pretty standard. All right. Read through it. Make sure that everything that you've agreed to is spelled out on the contract. All right. Some people make mistakes. Some people aren't so honest. Make sure that everything that you've agreed to is in the contract. All right. Once you sign and return the contract, the investor will then take their money. Okay, they're going to put some sort of money, some sort of hand money, some down payment money, and they're going to give it to an escrow agent, usually a title agent, right? And they will hold the money in escrow. All right, this is known as opening escrow. This way, the money is not in my possession anymore, and it's not in yours yet. You're going to get it when, all the contingencies are met. All right. Making the property available. There will usually be a 5 to 10 day due diligence period, all right, during which the buyer will bring contractors, inspectors, and appraisers. All right. If the investor has done their work, I've done my work well, the only thing that can really derail the deal would be like hidden damages, right? Bad foundations, major termite damage, things that really can't be seen until you basically take the hood off, right? So an inspector is going to find those things. And maybe a contractor as they really dig into things, but by and large, we're going to figure out our repairs based upon what we see and smell when we walk through your house. All right, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with me today. If you want a cash offer on your house, if you want a value, to talk about your property, call or text me. My number is on the screen, 757-755-5587. Shoot me an email at matt@mattwalshhomes.com. All right, you can always go to my website at mattbydesvirginiabeach.com. Put your information in there. Within a day, I'll come back to you with a pretty solid offer as to what we can pay for your home. All right, again, I usually do this live. You can always jump in and do it again, and listen to it again when I'm doing it live. And then we can ask questions, but I figured I'd put this out there so I can reach a greater audience in the interim. All right, thank you very much. Have a good day, and God bless.